I thought armed robberies only happen in the movies, but I rolled out of bed this morning to this video of a Lebanese man charging into his local bank with what looks to be an AK-47, and the man took several bankers hostage, and he said, guess what? I'm not leaving and you guys aren't getting out until you return me my $2.5 million. So in today's video, I'm going to quickly break down what is happening in Lebanon, what caused their 2019 economic crisis, and whether you should expect to see an armed man in your local bank anytime soon, because the same policies that put Lebanon in this economic crisis are being pursued by not only the United States, but all Western countries all around the world. So without further ado, let's get straight on into this one. Welcome to the Fix the Money, Fix the World YouTube channel. If you are new here, my name is Luke and I make videos breaking down macroeconomics, geopolitics, business, investing, finance, most importantly Bitcoin, and especially crazy news stories like this that come across my little news desk in the morning. So let's break down what actually happened in Lebanon, okay? Because this video of a man with an AK-47 charging into his local bank, there's typically a backstory to it. So let's start breaking down what actually happened. A lot of people are surprised. Where did this come from? Why is Lebanon melting down? Why are there men with AK-47s in the bank in Lebanon? But it's nothing new, okay? Lebanon has been going through a financial crisis for many years now. So the Lebanese economic crisis actually started in late 2019, early 2020, at the same time that the Federal Reserve was printing hundreds of billions of dollars bailing out the repo market, okay? Let's not forget, that happened well before there were any government-mandated lockdowns or mentions of the medicine. But moving on, what happened in Lebanon? Okay, I have a couple of very interesting quotes here. The banks essentially said, look, we're about to default on $1.5 billion of euro-dollar bonds, okay? And that was because Lebanon simply had too much debt. This quote here sums it up. Lebanon had little else to show for the debt mountain, equivalent at the time of 150% to national GDP, okay? So we all know the maths. Since the year 1800, 52 countries have reached debt to GDP levels of 130%. Out of those 52 countries, 51 of those countries have defaulted within 15 years of reaching that 130% debt Rubicon. And we can see here, Lebanon hit that 150% level in 2018. That's shown by this nice little chart here. Now, what actually happened? What caused the default to happen, okay? Lebanon is an economy that's very reliant on remittances, and we can see by this quote I've got highlighted, remittances started slowing from 2011 as there was economic and political turmoil in the Middle East. Let's not forget, the Arab Spring 1.0 happened around that 2010-2011 timeline, and that caused a wave of political uprisings and political unrest. That was something we talked about when we covered the 90-year fourth turning cycle and the 250-year revolutionary cycle. I'll put a link to those videos up on screen at the moment if you want to learn more about those political upheaval cycles. Now, again, let's move on here and have a look at the next quote I've got highlighted. In 2016, banks started offering remarkable interest rates for new deposits of dollars in 2016. Okay, so the warning signs were out there that the Lebanese banks were, well, they needed dollars. They needed US dollars for the enormous 150% debt to GDP ratio that they had, okay? When you have an enormous amount of dollars and the US dollar gets stronger, like this chart is indicating here, this is a 20-year chart of the Dixie, or the US dollar index. You can see the Dixie was in around 2009, 2010, it was around that $80 level, and you can see today it's at 105. Doesn't sound like a big increase, but a 25% increase in your servicing costs is a lot, okay? Because a lot of these emerging market countries like Lebanon have debt in US dollars, okay? So it's no surprise when the US dollar got this is the chart of the reserves, and you can see in 2016, when those banks started offering those outrageously high interest rates, you can see what was happening under the surface. The reserves were absolutely falling, okay? That's because their remittances started slowing in 2011. The banks were starting to get a little bit dry of dollars in 2016. That's why they said, hey, come look at our massive interest rates. Come and deposit your dollars at our bank and get these massive interest rates. And you could see what was happening below the surface. The banks, and this is actually the chart of the central bank of Lebanon, was draining its reserves. You can see from $36 billion in 2017 to below $17 billion in 2020. Their foreign reserves halved in the matter of 3 years. That's a big problem, and you can see when they started getting less dollars and less money from the remittances, how did the government deal with it? They printed more money, and this here is the chart of the balance sheet of the government of Lebanon. You can see it absolutely exploded in late 2019. Okay, that's when they defaulted on that euro-dollar bonds, and you can see naturally when governments print lots of money, what happens to the value of that money? Absolutely disintegrates. Okay, this here is marking the value of the Lebanese pound in the black market, and you can see it's gone from 1 to about 1,500 with the dollar in 2019 to 1 to 10,000 of the US dollar in 2021. So it's lost about 80% of its value in the past 2 years alone, okay? And you can see it was a very similar story to any hyperinflationary story, okay? Gradually and then suddenly. So this little tweet here, this was something I was talking about in November 2006, November 2021 was when I put this tweet out of Lebanon. I was looking at the inflation rates. You can see inflation in 2017, 4%. Inflation 2019, 3%. Inflation in 2020, 84%. And inflation in 2021 for Lebanon was 200%. Okay, so you can see only a few years ago they had inflation of 4, 6, 3%, and then all of a sudden, bam, hyperinflation hit you out of nowhere. That should probably put the hairs on the back of your neck standing up a little bit if you're living in a Western country. It's currently suffering from 6 to 7 to 8 to 9% inflation. Yes, hyperinflation happens very rapidly. And this is also another tweet I did covering the Lebanon situation from my work account. I help out at Coinbeast here, and you can see I was tweeting about the Lebanese government going bankrupt in April 2022. And again, I've got a similar graphic, and I've got some similar stats here on the Lebanese inflation. 6% in 2018, and then bam, 84% in 2020. Hyperinflation happens slowly, then suddenly. And this here is a chart that kind of shows what we're talking about. You can see inflation was relatively under control for many years there in 2013, 14, 15, started picking up slowly in 2016, 17, 18, 19, and then bam, it explodes out of nowhere. So naturally, a bankrupt government turns into a tyrannical government. And we also saw some early warning signs of this in very early 2022. Lebanon essentially seized the large majority of all depositors' bank money and said, sorry guys, instead of that being US dollars, we are converting that into Lebanese pounds. Sorry, you get no say in it. It's going to happen overnight. So we can see here there was actually $104 billion of hard currency deposits in Lebanese banks, and in January 2022 they got instantly converted from the US dollars into the Lebanese pound, and they got converted at a rate that ended up wiping 75% of value off those deposits overnight. So naturally the Lebanese people have been a little bit angry for a long time, okay? This isn't something that just happened overnight, okay? This happened in early 2020. And you can see, I'm going to actually show you a little video of a Lebanese protest in 2021. So most people would be familiar with this thing called the coffin dance, okay? You can see on the right here the original video of the African chaps here doing a little bit of we'll call it a festive celebration with a coffin in hand. And the Lebanese protesters in 2021 actually took this video and they started marching down the streets in protest with a coffin on their shoulders, and you can see on the sides there it's actually got little sticky taped pieces of paper on there of Lebanese pounds, the dollars. So they were announcing the death of the Lebanese pound in 2021. So this economic crisis has been ongoing for a little while. This isn't just something that popped up overnight and a man lost his mind and he took an AK-47 to the local bank. This crisis is ongoing, and the closer we get to the conclusion of this 80-year long-term debt cycle, you will see more dominoes like Lebanon fall, okay? You're watching it all around the world, from Turkey to Peru to Argentina to Nigeria. Countries all around the world are crippling under this debt, and this is what happens at the end of 80-year long-term debt cycles, okay? gradually, then suddenly the dominoes fall and you find who's been swimming naked. And that's obviously why we Bitcoin. Okay, we're living in a global Ponzi scheme, and it's not just Lebanon who has debt to GDP of that magic 130% number. It is nations all around the world, even your beloved United States, my beloved United States. We are suffering with that 130% debt to GDP ratio, so I expect we're going to default in the next 15 years. If the global reserve currency defaults in the next 15 years, the rest of the world's going to default too, okay? So naturally, that's why we Bitcoin. That's a nice takeaway from today's video. If you were in Lebanon and you stored your wealth in Bitcoin, obviously the banks couldn't confiscate it. The banks couldn't convert it into a shittier currency that lost 75% of its value overnight, okay? Bitcoin. Go out there, hold your own keys. Here's a sneaky little plug for my show sponsor, the BitBox02 Hardware Wallet. Go and get your Bitcoin, take it off an exchange and put it into your own custody. And I recommend getting yourself one of those beautiful, slick, sexy little BitBox02 Hardware Wallets. You can get 5% off one of those if you use a promo code Bitcoin Made Simple. There's links for that down in the description. I didn't actually plan that ad read, it just kind of happened. But honestly, people should really take self-custody more serious, because I do expect banks in the West to do exactly what the Lebanese banks did. So that's all I've got for you guys in today's quick and sharp little video. If you like these shorter little videos, let me know. Comment down below and say, yep, we want more of them, or we want longer form educational videos. I don't mind. Let me know what you guys like. If you liked the video, feel free to hit that little like button, helps the channel out, and subscribe to the channel so you get notified when I release my next video. But anyway, until next time, see you guys.